Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about the absolute state of universities yet again, because if you watch this show, you'll know that far-left identitarians have taken over academia. This is an issue we've talked about many times. There are so many examples out there of professors trying to indoctrinate, not indoctrinate their students with far-left talking points. And I know that whenever I talk about how unbelievably left-leaning academia is, there's at least one person who says something along the lines of, well, if all the most educated, learned people out there are all left-wing, shouldn't that tell you something about what the correct opinion is? Huh? Well, first off, not only is the far-left identitarian takeover of universities somewhat recent, it wasn't always a given that every person at a university would literally be a communist and black nationalist. But also, personally, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but a ton of gender studies, sociology, and art history professors all agreeing that capitalism and white cis males are the problem, that just doesn't really mean a lot to me. I'm not really looking for any type of advice or policy recommendations from those people. In any case though, the reason why I bring up the far left in academia is that we have been presented with yet another example of shocking, staggering bias, incompetence, and flat-out bigotry from a college professor. Before we get into that though, I do need a quick minute of your time to tell you about our awesome sponsors, Quip. So what actually makes a good toothbrush? Unicorn horn, Paul Bunyan style brute force, multiple modes including a Bluetooth function, because nowadays everything has a Bluetooth function? Well, actually, if you ask your dentist, they'll tell you it's less about the brush and more about how you use it. That's why Quip was created by dentists and product designers to focus on what actually matters for your oral health, and that's healthier habits. Quip's sensitive vibrations with a built-in timer guide gentle brushing for the dentist recommended 2 minutes with 30-second pulses, ensuring an even clean. It has a sleek, intuitive design that's simple to use and comes with a travel cap that doubles as a mirror mount. These thoughtful features make brushing something you actually want to do twice every day. Quip automatically delivers brush heads to you every 3 months for clean new bristles right on schedule. Good habits matter to live a healthier life, so help form fresh oral habits with Quip. Quip starts at just $25, plus you'll get your first refill free at getquip.com/Chen. This is a great way to not only support the show, but also start brushing better, but you have to go to getquip.com/Chen to get your first refill free. Go right now to getquip.com/Chen. So Michael Moreno is a student at WSU who recently released audio recordings of his debate professor, a Mr. Ryan Wash, going on an anti-white tirade in which he asserts that space, as well as science and technology in general really, are white social constructs.
Our argument will be that space is not real. It's not real. Science, technology, it's all fake. It's a projection of white fantasies that has worked to control our interpretation of how the world works. None of us have had the privilege of going to fucking space to verify that there's these stars and these galaxies and these planets and things like that. Does that make sense? And so it's a huge criticism of modernity, it's a huge criticism of science, it's a huge criticism of even academia and argument structure within and of itself.
Yes, this man is literally doubting the existence of space and trying to associate it with whiteness. From what I understand, this whole topic, I think, was supposed to be a conversation about national space policy and the merits of space travel, which would have been interesting, but it seemingly got sidelined into a conversation about how evil the white man is, which, let's face it, a lot of university classes do nowadays. If you would like to see these clips in their entirety, plus Michael's own commentary on them, he's really a very smart guy, very well spoken. You can find them on Michael's YouTube channel, which is titled simply Michael Moreno. Here's what happened when Michael tried to add some sense into the discussion.
So, what about telescopes or black astronauts who have been to space?
What black astronaut went to space?
There's been 14. If you just Google black astronauts, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's astronauts. Not every astronaut goes to space.
Yeah. So if you go to the Wikipedia, there's 14 that went to space, and then there's a whole lot.
You sitting in an academic space and you just cited Wikipedia?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sure they have other sources, but if you look up the identity of these people, okay, so Goo and Stuart Blueforth.
They said space was real?
Well, he went to space.
Did he say it was real?
I'm sure I could find an interview of him talking about his experience. I don't know where he went if
Sure.
it didn't exist.
Good, then that means we have competing perspectives about truth, which means you should vote negative on presumption because
Because why?
you can't verify anything.
But he can verify it because he went there.
Okay, I can verify that it's not real because I haven't. So
So you can
vote
verify
negative
that
on presumption.
you can verify that space isn't real because you haven't been there.
Yeah, there's no evidence that it exists. My life is evidence of the fact that space does not exist.
So the only type of evidence that's accessible to you is your direct experience.
Absolutely.
Do you experience other Do you experience other people's accounts of their experience?
No.
So if a black guy
I just experienced them accounting their
Yeah.
accounts, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't reserve a healthy amount of
Yeah, I mean
skepticism.
they could be lying. Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying that I'm lying too?
No,
Or are you saying Wikipedia's lying? Or
No,
are
I'm
you
saying he
those
could
black
be lying.
astronauts
Like the black astronauts could be lying. That's true.
Correct.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. But
And just because they're black doesn't mean that they don't participate in whiteness.
what do you mean?
Okay, we can have more reading about this, but whiteness is not a racial concept that is about the epidermal. It's more so about a particular set of ideologies that works to securitize life for white people, and black people
Yeah.
are definitely participants in.
I'm not denying that black people
Okay.
engage. I'm saying the claim that space does not exist because you haven't seen it.
Correct.
Like that's like saying like Paris doesn't exist because I've never been there.
Correct.
I love how this professor is so convinced that Whitey is holding the black man down that he legitimately seems surprised that, yes, there have in fact been black astronauts, which is hilarious and racist, by the way. Like, yes, non-white people have contributed to space exploration, you absolute tool. But then, of course, when faced with the truth of black astronauts, the professor falls back on the old minorities who go against the narrative I'm trying to push have clearly internalized whiteness argument. Love that one. It's a classic. Now, since these clips have been released, some people have argued in favor of the professor that, hey, maybe he doesn't actually believe in space whiteness or whatever. Maybe he's just playing devil's advocate to make the debate more interesting. That doesn't really make sense though, because A, it's not even a good argument to play devil's advocate too. The idea that I haven't seen something, therefore it doesn't exist, is so laughably stupid, I'm frankly shocked we're hearing it from someone who is above the age of 7, maybe 6 years old. But what's even more concerning than this professor's blatant racism and lack of professionalism and competence is this presentation by Michael's fellow classmates to non-white students, which advocates for sending all white people away into space. Permanently.
Little black boys are getting shot at, but whiteys will go to Mars. Black families from coast to coast didn't eat today, but whiteys will enjoy their 3-course meals in their spaceships. Black bodies are depleted on the killing fields, and whiteys run it. We affirm putting an end to the killing fields. Black bodies are done with it. Thus, all whiteys should be sent on a one-way trip to continue their deep space exploration and find a new home. Black bodies will keep Earth. This is our way of destroying the killing fields that whiteness has ruled upon. If there are no whiteys on Earth, there is no killing field. All we have done is imagine what a better life looks like, and that life is one without the whiteys ruling over black bodies, and that life, a better life exists where black bodies will flourish on Earth. The creators of capital will be MIA, meaning black people can live for and provide structures for their communities without working in white-centered institutions. While whites explore deep space that is based on definitions of capital and of whiteness, we will be able to explore and have control over our spaces, something that is taken away from us on the killing fields. And whiteys, don't worry about your return flight, because we book you a one-way ticket.
These people are black supremacists. They are racist, and they are way worse than the alt-right ever could be. The alt-right wants white-only countries. These people want a black-only planet. They are so offended by whiteness, they don't even want to share a planet with white people. And by the way, I do feel like I should mention that this school, it's not in California or Oregon or Washington or New York or some other bastion of progressive ideals. WSU is in Utah. As someone who has lived in Utah, let me tell you, if universities there have already fallen to far-left identitarianism, then there's pretty much nowhere left that's safe. Can you imagine what would happen if a white student got up in front of his class and advocated for rounding up all of the non-white people and sending them away so that white people could finally be free of the terrors that non-white people bring? Yeah, he would be expelled, I'm pretty certain, or at the very least there would be outrage and some type of punishment. But in this situation and at this school, here are the critiques that the rest of the class had to this presentation, and spoiler, that it was super duper racist doesn't come up.
So what happens if / when the white people find a planet with life on it? Are they just going to colonize it? Should we subject other people to that colonization?
Because white people, well, we don't know if it's people that they would colonize, first of all, because we don't know what life
Should we subject
exists.
other life to that type of colonization that is happening? White people would colonize another planet.
Okay, but black people shouldn't be subject to it either, so I'm gonna say they can win.
If your first response to someone actually suggesting that we round up all the white people and banish them off into space is, but wouldn't the white people just colonize other planets? You might be an asshole. That's all I'll say. And when Michael finally does bring up the fact that, hey guys, isn't this just a little bit super duper racist? The class is just not having it.
I just don't understand how none of you see how incredibly racist the plan is to send an entire group of race to space. Because you're white, go to space. That's incredibly racist. That's the definition.
How it goes further than the
On what basis?
No, he didn't. He said if you're white, you go to space.
Yeah,
Just having skin color being, that's by definition racism.
How so? Like, I just don't understand. I think that you're like racism.
Be racist towards white people.
And why
Because
would you go to space? It's
Your
because
skin
you
color
want to
doesn't
be part
determine
of
the level of your power. That's a,
But it does.
no it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
There are people who are,
Society.
There
Yeah.
are certain theories,
So
academic
every
theories,
single-
Mike, that just disagree with you.
every single white
Including
person.
Ronald Judy, including the field of Afro-pessimism and Black studies and
So,
queer
so,
theory. and
so Barack
disability
Obama
studies.
didn't have power.
Okay.
He couldn't do anything.
I mean,
He didn't
but
have any
also
power.
had to show his birth certificate when no other person.
Sure, yeah,
had to.
everyone faces oppression. Everyone.
No, but that particular oppression can be marked by your skin color, which is something you
Yeah.
could probably not fathom. By
No,
not
no,
being
no, no, no.
black.
I'm in a debate space where everyone questions me on my skin color. I can definitely fathom
Okay,
it.
but you're not being questioned on having black skin color.
Social justice advocates always say that black people cannot be racist toward white people because they lack systemic power. But really, when you think about it, and what this example goes to show is that's not the real reason. If even in a hypothetical scenario where black people have taken it upon themselves to round up all the white people on the planet and shoot them off into space forever, you still don't accept that black people have the power to be racist against white people, you will never accept that black people can be racist against white people. In these people's minds, when white people mistreat black people, that's racism. But when black people mistreat white people, well, that's just retribution. That's just justice. It's a crazy world we're living in, folks, and you know what? I feel like a lot of us see so many of these stories of crazy, unhinged professors that we can kind of become desensitized to it. But let's not forget who the real victims are, and that's students like Michael who are forced to listen to this crap day after day and heck even repeat it themselves if they want to get their degrees. I'm all for academic freedom, of course, but this type of behavior in a classroom setting is just unacceptable. How can you have a debate class where you can't even push back on the idea that your race is inherently bad? Michael has his own video, which I strongly recommend you guys check out, by the way, where he goes point by point through every single university policy that this Professor Wash is in violation of. With evidence, by the way. Academic freedom does not mean that you get to assert your own opinions are facts and shut down students when they try to push back on that, and it certainly doesn't mean that you get to disrespect students based on their race. Since these clips started being shared around, WSU has released a statement saying they're looking into things, but I, at least, am not holding my breath that anything productive is going to come of that. And what's especially frustrating is that just for sharing these clips and exposing the racism of his professor and classmates, which, by the way, I consider a public service, Michael has himself been slandered by WSU students as being an alleged white supremacist. A Twitter account called Never Neutral Union claims to be, quote, a student-led organization made in response to the videos produced by Michael Moreno. We will not be neutral in the wake of white supremacy. supremacy. They've tweeted that, quote, "We demand that Michael Moreno be expelled from Weber State for breaking student code of conduct and propagating white supremacy. We demand the videos be taken down for privacy violation and hate speech. We demand university support for Ryan Wash and the debaters in the video." Regarding the assertions of privacy violations, none of Michael's classmates are either named or shown on video. Plus, Utah is a state that does not require someone's permission before being recorded, so no luck there. Also, if your definition of white supremacy includes saying, "Please don't banish me and my family to outer space forever just because of our skin color," you're insane, okay? You are a crazy person. There is no reasoning with you. And that's why I wanted to talk about this story. Not only to raise awareness about it and try to get support for Michael and hopefully condemnation for this professor, but also to say unequivocally that yes, all of this racial identitarian anti-white rhetoric is definitely contributing to the rise of white nationalism among Generation Z. You cannot have Black people, Hispanic people, and Asian people all saying "my people, my race, my land," and then be surprised when white people say it too. I've been saying it for literally years that these far-left types with their racial grievances and boo white people attitudes, they've been making race relations worse, and guess what? We have proof of that now. One study looked at 5 components of white victim ideology, specifically that, quote, "whites face racial discrimination, whites' rights, particularly to their own culture, are being denied, whites are stigmatized for expressing racial pride, discrimination, loss of rights, and stigmatization lead to a loss of self-esteem and other psychological distress, and that these attacks are a threat to the existence of the white race." The study found that, quote, "results suggest all 5 elements of white victim ideology are positively associated with affiliation with the alt-right, with perceived reverse discrimination, i.e. just flat-out discrimination, being the most influential factor. I do not say this lightly, but racists like Ryan Wash are a stain on our society. They threaten the cohesion of our social fabric and the unity of our nations. The fact that he is actually in a position to influence the thoughts and opinions of young people is a sure sign of the degradation of our institutions. And as always, I would love to know what you guys think. What do you think the university should do to Ryan Wash, and what do you think is going to happen to Michael for exposing his professor? Plus, is there any way at this point to save academia, or is it just a lost cause? Let me know, but that's it for now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.